Another exciting day in the market down. Let's take a look at how we're positioned, how the technicals held up, and where we could potentially be going. And plus, insider selling, Jensen Huang selling NVDA. We actually have reports of that as well as of 4:30 market time today. So 30 minutes after the market close, he sold shares. We'll talk about that when we get to NVIDIA. For right now, let's get to the technicals. So SPY, looking at the hourly chart, I chose the hourly so I can show you the intraday that we have on here. Now, mind you, this trend line up above, we still haven't gotten there. We are hitting resistance right at around 563 and just can't happen to get above it. We are continuing to put that pressure on it. We could still see that trend line. This trend line that's on here is off the previous peaks that we have. And so that's something that I'm really watching for. Breaking up above that could be a bullish thing. Getting rejected off of that could send us back down looking for support. As of right now, 563 still being that line to beat, if you will, for SPY. So we got to keep an eye out on that one. If we do make it up above, we still have to fight against the previous peaks that we had right around 565 to 566. So we need to watch out for that resistance to the upside. Plenty of support to the downside, but man, there's a gap in here that we could just tumble down on through. If we do happen to go to the downside, we're going to have to be watchful for that one for SPY. When we go over to Qs, the QQQ, you can actually see that we got that rejection off this top part of the trend line, bottom part of the trend line, and then found support today after selling off. Still haven't put in that recent high that we've had right there. Haven't revisited it. Getting up above these trend lines is going to be crucial for doing that. So take a look at those prices that I have on here for you. About 472 and just shy of 475. We got to break up above this trend line that we have here. Staying above the 472, I'm going to cover that green for support. Mind you, these technicals are available at the Discord, available through the Patreon. That link is down in the description of this video, along with the technical analysis trading course you can access. Get a trading strategy called the Bread Recipe through Stockmo Academy. I have a chapter in there on options as well, and there's a learning community that goes along with it. Oftentimes, people paying for the course in just one single trade. For the Qs, be watchful for these trend lines. Watch for a further rejection. Watch for the resistance that we have above. If we can get above it, we got a clear shot at 480 again. So decent upside there if we can stay up above 471 to 472. If we fall down through that, I do have some lower price targets on here that are worth paying attention to as well, because you'll notice these dark areas on your graph are where we have on this chart, or where we could tumble down through and have free fall areas for QQQ, so be on the lookout for that. And that Fed meeting coming up, I got a video coming out in the morning talking about the summer of economic projections that we could likely see and some of the impacts that we could see as a result of it. So moving over to IWM, got a tiny consolidation pattern happening throughout today. Right in between, we got a touch on resistance to the upside at about 219, and then a touch on support down here. I'll color that one green as well since we broke up above that. There we go. 216.43 is where we're currently bound right now. To the top side of this is where we're looking off the previous peaks that we had. To the bottom of this is the top of a bullish channel. Sitting on top of it outside of the typical price ranges for this one. And I said it's probably going to take the Fed meeting to push us one way or the other. Goldilocks, bullish, recession, bearish. IWM tracking the Russell 2000 stocks. Keep that in mind. And expect anything between now and Wednesday at 2 o'clock to 2:30 when we see the SEP come out, and also the Fed's interest rate decision come out, and also to see what Jerome Powell has to say with his commentary at 2:30. So be on the lookout that Wednesday, September the 18th. So like I said, 219 to the upside, breaking up above that really opens up some of the upper price targets that we have, potentially taking us up to at least 228 if we get really bullish news on that one before we hit the next major resistance area for that. To the bottom side of this, if we tumble back down, here are some near-term price targets that we could be expecting to the downside of this if we end up falling down through here. Now, mind you, if they signal recession, we'll probably fall down closer to that 200 mark. Down here at 206, also firm support. Down here is 202, down below that. We're starting to get far away from those prices now. Let's move over to NVIDIA and talk just for a quick moment. Jensen Huang is the CEO of NVIDIA, and we got a report of the insider selling in this case. So this doesn't mean that he did any illegal trade activity. It just means that he's selling some of the shares they had. 240,000 shares sold at average prices ranging between about $115 and $120 per share. And 240,000 sounds like a lot of shares until you realize that Jensen Huang still has over 75 million shares of NVIDIA. So we're in September, likely coming up to tax season. Maybe he's taking a little bit of profit to live on. You know, who knows why he would sell a little bit like he did. I don't know that it's any sort of major signal whatsoever for NVIDIA. And also the market didn't react to it. So when we look at the technicals, we're going to see that as well. If you want to know percentage-wise, just approximately how much he sold, it was less than 1/3 of 1% of his total ownership as of those 240,000 shares. Who wouldn't love to have that many shares of NVIDIA, especially where he would hold them at? So just being part of that company and not necessarily receiving that paycheck so much as receiving shares of the company. I don't know if he gets paid or not, honestly, but I do know that with that many shares, I mean, all he has to do is just sprinkle a couple here and there, and the man's got it made. So let's take a look at the technicals, see how the market reacted to it. And what you're going to see in the post-market is a little bit of consolidation here. A little bit of a dip happening. This is the 1 hour chart after that news came out. And you can see us narrowing down. And if we go really, really close into this, you'll notice within the green area up at about 117 down to about 116 is where we have inside support and resistance within this area of support that I have that we're currently in right now. And we actually had 2 touches on the support that's inside of here and 1 touch on that resistance. And so just really still trying to find its place. And again, I think Fed meeting is going to have a bit to do about that. Now, mind you, I also have Intel on the list today. We'll talk about that one. So for NVIDIA, where could we potentially go for NVIDIA? Well, take a look off that top trend line that you see there for NVIDIA. This is off the previous peaks. There we go. You can see what we got here from the most recent time that we're up here north of $125 per share. We seem to be following right along this trend line right now off this previous peak. We really need to get up above that trend line. If we do, we can see a pretty massive rip. We could see arguably a little left shoulder over here, a head here, and then another shoulder there, which mean that like if we can appreciate here up over $121 per share, we could call that a neckline for an inverse head and shoulders pattern, setting up the next bull movement for NVIDIA, which would actually be pretty incredible. So the selling pressure from Jensen Huang, not really felt all that much, especially with who he is and how many shares he holds. I would say that this would be just some normal profit taking, just taking a little bit of money off the table. But like I said, less than 1/3 of 1% of his shares. It's not really that big of news. Now, if it was a massive liquidation, if it was a large part of his holdings, that could be a different story. But for NVIDIA right now, as long as we can keep this support, as long as we can keep pretty much symmetric with what's over here, we could see that further price appreciation to the upside. And that's what these green prices are that you see on here, all the way up to about 130 and down to the bottom side. If we fall down through support instead, so if we break this consolidation and start to head back down this way, you can see where we can catch ourselves for support. 111, 108, 103, 100, and about 98 are also down below as well. So moving over to Tesla. What do we got going on for Tesla? We'll actually take a look at the hourly view for this. We're still in the rising wedge pattern. This is the daily chart. I'll move down in just a moment. I wanted to show you this touch that we had on this previous price target of 222 that we hit before, and we kind of sold off of that. We got close to the 233 price target. How close did we get on that one? 232.67. We fell within 33 cents. So I'm going to call that price target hit, and that was as of Friday. So we'll see if we still have 242 in the cards. I think we can still possibly get there. It's going to take the Fed's help to do it. They're going to have to signal Goldilocks and really bringing down those interest rates aggressively. So that curve that we see coming up for the SEP is going to play a major role in that. So for Tesla, going down to the hourly chart, what are we looking at for Tesla coming up here in the near future? Well, you can see we're getting some pressure downward. Just right now, the bulls holding the line against the bears, putting the downward pressure on. This could possibly break out tomorrow to the downside to retest further support that we have. So be on the lookout for that, especially if we still can't really clear 228. One of the things having us touch that 228 is the fact that we were not able to get up to resistance last time. And so since we weren't able to reach that ceiling, instead we looked for the floor, fell down through the first floor, onto the second, bounced a good bit, and then got rejected anyway. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. If support holds, maybe we get that next step up in the appreciation. Watch this bottom trend line. If we break down through that, that could be a bearish thing and lead to a further sell, being as though we're in that rising wedge pattern. TMF in the consolidation pattern, we are breaking out to the upside in the post market right now. 64.44. Where did we close today? We closed today at 64.33. And so we'll see if my price target that I have on here for you of about 67, if we end up getting up there. And if we do, will we see ourselves getting up to this 73? I got a call option position right now up about 30% to 35% on this play. We'll see if it continues to appreciate over the next several days. I might have to take that money off the table prior to Jerome Powell speaking, as that could be a bit of a coin flip for something like TMF. Now, finally, NVIDIA. My goodness, not NVIDIA, wrong chip company. Intel, not doing as well as NVIDIA. Just look at the longer term charts and you'll see they're pretty darn low right now. Getting some good news today about a $3 to $3.5 billion contract, followed by a partnership, news about a partnership in the after hours with AWS for chip development. So pushing out that demand out there. Watch for these support values to come out on the chart tomorrow and watch for a bounce to the upside of this. We could potentially see these higher numbers come out of this thing. So for Intel, we got excellent volume today. As a matter of fact, you can see even on this hourly chart that the volume down here, let me slide it this way just a little bit, the volume down here was much greater than all the previous days that came before it, all that low volume. This excitement, this sort of momentum spike is usually something that carries on for at least the next day. So we want to be watchful for that. So if we do sell down tomorrow, watch for a bounce off support and then potentially a skyrocket to come off of that. Hopefully $23, even more, hopefully $25. I'd love to see this thing pull hard down to about 22-ish, this 21.88 that I have on here, or maybe even down a little bit further south to 21.78. And then if we retrace that far, I think it's possible that that's where we really hit that springboard and start to look back up to the sky for where we're at right now with that rejection, which is at about 22.64, which is where this resistance line is on here. And then 23.40 is that next line of resistance. Up above that, really solid resistance to the top side of this resistance area, by the way, right at about 24 even. So be on the lookout for that, and about 25 even to the north of that. These spaces in between the red and the green are free float or free fall areas, generally speaking. So that's the way that you would want to interpret that on the graph as I have it. So guys, if you want to see my buys and sells, see these technicals before they hit YouTube, you can do so by joining my Discord, which is available through the Patreon. The link is down in the description. And you can learn to do these technicals yourself through Stockmo Academy. Get access to the bread recipe. It's a quick, easy setup, very easy to understand, very straightforward, very good at signaling for what times look like, where the momentum is there in order to make purchases, even though it never tells you what to buy or sell. And the same thing for selling things. And it works in both directions, for long positions, for short positions, and it works across time frames. And like I said, the course tells you how to set it up, tells you a whole lot more than that. Small, easy, digestible pieces. The link's down in the description. You can get a massive discount by using the code word DOCTOR, D-O-C-T-O-R, when you sign up for that course. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning. I'll see you in the next video.